All right, folks,
Stream
let's get to
is
work.
live.
Today is my twin girls, their birthday. So we got to get moving here. Right. Let's see if we can get to
Dude,
work. Good. All right, guys. Last week we talked about patience
patience.
and a little bit how that interjected with expectation
Hmm.
and outcome. And today we took that further with our community and we decided to go right into impatience because there is a time when you need to be impatient. And there's a specific reason why I teach impatience in a specific way. And James, you brought up some more stuff as this developed further in our community about discouragement. So I think we should
Right.
just tie it all together and hit it
Yeah.
home.
Let's
What do you
do
think?
it. Let's do
So
it.
let's do a
Love
quick
it.
recap in case you didn't hear about patience last week. We talked about the highlights simply as this. At the end of the day, most of the time people think they've tried everything in their relationship, and that's
Mhm.
impossible. They have not.
They haven't.
If they tried everything in the relationship, you'd actually have what you want. We know this because whether you want money, a better relationship, a great body, it doesn't matter. Everybody out there that has what you has just had to work and they didn't quit. We actually say something over at Moral. We say 100% of people who do the work will
Yep.
win, will succeed.
It
Okay.
will.
Now, what that means is sometimes you got to be patient. And so I don't want to talk too much about patience, just simply this. Most of the time, you're going to be patient with yourself. You're going to be
Right.
patient with what you need to learn. You're going to be patient with your partner if there's damage and you're trying to repair the marriage.
Hmm.
Okay. But you can go watch last week's if you want. That'll be on Facebook for those of you on TikTok. But at the end of the day, there are times when you need to become impatient.
Right.
Okay. And now the first tier to that, I would say, is you have to be impatient with yourself. It's funny because we talked about being patient with yourself as you're learning and growing last week. But here's the thing, although we need to be patient with ourselves as we learn and grow, I want you to get desperately impatient with yourself for the hunger, the thirst for knowledge, for
Hmm.
applying the knowledge, and embrace every opportunity. Where we'll talk about discouragement today. We talked about it with the last guy in the call today. He was talking about, had this great plan. Everything was going great with his wife. And then he got discouraged because she wasn't excited no matter how positive he was. I'm saying, dude, you got to get impatient with yourself. Start embracing the fact that you get to use
Mhm.
these skills. Go practice, go role play, embrace the fact that it's going to be exciting. It's going to hurt though. She's not
Yeah.
excited to see you.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one of those things too. We talked about last week that the idea of being patient is really knowing that the process can't be rushed. I think I closed it out last week by saying everything we rush, we ruin. And
Mm-hmm.
so we can't go from 2 to 12 except through 10 years. We can't
That's right.
become successful except through 1,000 failures. We can't gain unless we're willing to lose. And so we're supposed to be patient, but we define patience as waiting with intention
Mm-hmm.
for an outcome with boundaries. That's sort of like the crux of it. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just like open-ended. Patience is not eternal. It has an end. I mean, even for the religious folks, well, patience is a virtue. Yeah, but it has an ending point.
Yeah,
Eventually you go, enough's enough.
that's
So,
right.
and now we're saying you got to be patient and impatient at the exact same time
Mm-hmm.
with yourself and with others and with the circumstances. So, yeah, we did get into to discouragement today because I think discouragement can be caused from impatience in a negative sense.
100%. Here's the thing. Like, if you understand that you're usually discouraged because of the outcome that you've attached to it
Mhm.
or the expectation that you had, God forbid, entitlement that you had, this is when you become impatient for the wrong reasons. Okay.
Right.
This is when you stop thinking about what else could I do differently? How much harder could I work? What else could I sacrifice to get what I want? And you start turning that towards the blame that we talked about last week.
Right.
Okay. But there is a time when it's acceptable to be impatient with your partner too.
Mhm.
Okay. So, a lot of times we have people that go through my program or women that go through Catherine's program and they're working really, really hard.
Mhm.
Okay. That is using the impatience that we're talking about today. What else could I learn? Embracing the opportunities to, piss your partner off essentially because they don't like you right now. They're checked
That's right.
out right now. We're not going to follow them right now.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to provide structure for the new future. Excuse me, the new life that you want. Okay. But what if you've done all kinds of work, and you feel like it's time to move forward? Well, I think there's some other questions that you need to ask first because I mean, Catherine and I tell people when we are talking to them, we talk on the podcast a lot all the time. We say,
Mm.
well, we spent over $500,000 to learn. So if we're still learning and continuing investing ourselves, James, you talked about it as well. You spent a ton of money on yourself. You spent
Right.
$60,000 in therapy is one of your big
Yeah.
numbers you like to throw
Quarter
around.
mil for my education.
That's right. And
Yeah.
so then if we know that, then we know that probably you haven't tried anything, which means you probably need to go back to being impatient on yourself and learning,
Mm.
but patient when you fail.
That's right.
Okay.
Technical thing, turn down your iPhone because they're saying I'm echoing.
Turn down my iPhone.
Yeah, turn down your iPhone all the way and we'll be good
Which
to go.
one? Is that
Yeah.
TikTok?
So I'll chat while you do that. One of the things that causes us to be, we really get to embody patience sometimes. Like, you know what, I'm going to be patient. I'm going to wait. But it turns into the wrong type of contentment and almost complacency. Like, it's all right. I'm good to go. And that was sort of my story, Cass. For those of you who don't know, I just got okay with just not going anywhere in certain aspects of my life. And so Cass is like, dude, that's the wrong kind of patience. That's turned into apathy or just letting things ride. You got to get a little impatient. And sometimes the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the uncertainty keeps us from making a necessary decision. The good kind of impatience serves as a force that overrides the hesitation and pushes us forward. But it's also like patience is a decisive thing. It's something that we choose to do. The same thing is true with impatience. We have to decide that when growth is stalled, we got to find ourselves going, okay, I'm going to not just wait for the right time. I'm going to say enough's enough. It's time to move.
Yeah, that's 100%. Now, when you do move, though, that's what we find. So let's say, again, let's go back to the person who's tried everything. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
God forbid, you're in an abusive relationship. It's not really what we're talking about right now. That's a call. Okay. But, you've tried everything. Okay. Well, how do you measure that effort? I know in our program, we have extensive tests that we put you through. We have a lot of questions that we ask you. We challenge you in a way that gets you thinking so that you go, holy, I guess I haven't been doing this. I haven't been doing that. I haven't been doing. And if that's what we're doing to double check, keep in mind, there's a lot of us we know your story. We know your history. We know what's going on. At the end of the day, we call it reality check. So at the end of the day, if we know that we need all that for ourselves, then how are you with just a few friends who don't believe in what you're doing, trying to save your marriage, or just a few broke people you're talking to, trying to say that you can't go make money? Come on, go to the bar with us. Let's watch the game. How can you even think that you're with the right people, that your one therapist or your two therapists are giving you enough feedback? Like, it's insane what people are still doing. Don't you think?
Yeah, I do. And they just, we work a lot at Morrow to try to get people to understand who they are and to embody the tools and the resources to show up authentically. But
Yes.
it's so funny that the same thing that takes away our authenticity is the same thing that takes away our ability to drive and to perform and to achieve, because we listen to people who can't take us where we want to go because they can't get there. And so they're the ones that always and so if you have too much patience, you're going to miss an opportunity that closes. And that's and listening to the wrong people will do that for you. Then you'll have regret and resentment. Then you'll be lost even worse. And then you're like, oh man, then I'll never be able to do anything.
And that's where we went with the lesson this week, right? We talked about it. If you have the resentment, then you definitely didn't do the work.
That's right.
If anything that comes out of your mouth that is not something that you're proud of, I'm going to use that example that I overheard Catherine coaching a woman today. And she said to the woman, she said, wait a minute, stop right there. So that means you understand and appreciate everything he said. You don't like the delivery. And from what I heard, the delivery was not nice. It was not acceptable. But here's the thing. She wants to move the marriage forward. So what does she do? Catherine says, well, then why don't you understand and appreciate what she's saying? When you connect, we can address the behavior in the delivery. But everything he said was something that you appreciated, but you didn't express it because you took it personally. See, that contempt or resentment is holding you back from getting the life that you want because you are focused on yourself. Therefore, you need to be more impatient with yourself again.
That's right.
Not even worried about any impatience with their progress.
That's right.
Who do you want to be?
Yeah, I think I don't know exactly how we said it. We talk so much and we teach so much that everything just sort of runs together. But I remember part of the conversation was that when we get to the place where we're so patient that we need a little impatience, that it actually breeds mediocrity. So we're comfortable and we're not challenged, and we like the not being challenged because
Hmm.
really the initial thing that we have to get people to see is that they're just not patient enough because they want to rush, 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 rush. They want everything now.
That's the
But
primary.
that's
The
the
primary.
primary, and then we
Yeah.
have to slow them down, say, "Slow your roll there, homeboy," and just, sit there and now breed a little bit of impatience, because
Hmm.
if you feel too comfortable and you're not challenged, impatience might be the inner voice telling you that you were meant for more. So
That's correct.
urgency is the only way to make an impact, but yet you don't wanna live under the urgency that's driven by fear and resentment and all that other kind of stuff. You want to live with an urgency that's driven by a willful impatience. Like I've got because when patience runs out, what's left? Impatience. It's sort of like the root of it. So you have to be in that constant state of
That's
both
right.
of those things.
That's right. And you know, I think that when you get there and you realize you're not angry, you're not contemptuous. Hey, if the old me, my part only. Okay.
Mm,
If that didn't allow me to get the life that I want, then I can accept that. That's relationship based. If it's your health,
right.
if it's your money, that's your bank account and that's your health. And I still even go as far as to say, then it's if the old me ruined it. And keep in mind, my wife took the same approach, right? Catherine, we say she only was responsible for 10% of the damage, 10% of the abuse,
Yeah.
10% of the bad behavior. But she
Right.
took 100% of responsibility for her side of things.
That's right.
And if you don't know, that was the catalyst that got me to reflect to now where I can teach men what I teach, not
Yeah.
just the stuff that I learned and tried to implement before, but when she did her work. So everybody, it's you, your relationship, it's you, your bank account, it's you, your health. And if
Yeah.
you take responsibility for you, then you can't possibly be angry at anybody else
Right.
if you don't like it. And that's the sign. That is the telltale sign. We had a great call with our guys today, right? And remember what the one dude said? You know, we recognized he was walking on eggshells a little bit with her.
Hmm.
Okay. So he's in all intents and purposes, he's not reactive. He's not yelling over
No.
their disagreement, which I don't think it sounded like a disagreement until afterwards. But here's why. But what we caught was that he was walking on eggshells. He wasn't being authentically himself. He
Right.
was good. He thought he was using the program because he wasn't reacting negatively,
Right.
yelling, snippy, wit as a weapon.
Right.
It didn't appear at first glance that there was resentment. And James, what did you say to him?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was triggered. The bottom line, he was triggered, and he couldn't see it because his triggers used to result in the outburst. And
Hmm.
now, because he's regulated his emotions and his nervous system, he has not yet to experience that space with with that internal voice. And the reason that he's upset is because his identity is still connected to his relationship.
That's
And that's
right.
the
So
bottom line. He needs that external validation.
that's
Yeah,
right.
he
So
got
he can't.
patient with the process and then didn't realize that he actually slid a little bit back down
That's
into his
correct. And
old
so he
method.
therefore cannot actually or use or activate impatience with her or with the
Right.
relationship because deep down there was actually some resentment or
That's right.
something is triggering him,
Yeah.
right? And so when we understand that, then we understand that, okay, back to the beginning, more patient with the progress, more impatient with myself to learn, patient with
Right.
myself when I fail,
That's
like
right.
this, and now this guy's come a lot further than many people that we would start with.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
he was like, "Oh, wow, I didn't even think of it that way." And he starts,
Yeah.
so this is great. This is a great evolution in the journey. But let's say now for a second, James, that we have somebody who we believe is like top notch,
Mhm.
woman in Catherine's program, a man in my program. They're top notch. The high assessment score, daily scorecard's good, reality checks for
Yeah.
multiple men. They're just inside. This is the real telltale,
Mhm.
not the bullshit where you just talk yourself up. There's no guilt. There's no shame. For example, I don't feel the shame or the guilt anymore from hurting Catherine the way I used to abuse
Right.
her. It doesn't define who I am anymore.
Something
So you
you
can
did.
say whatever you want to me about
Yeah.
hurting Catherine, screaming at Catherine, throwing suitcases on her empty and mocking her, raping her, anything. It's
Right.
not who I am anymore.
That's right.
Right. Okay. So if I want more, if you're at this point where you're not defined by your guilt and your shame, truly you are proud of who you are, then I think you can get um, impatient with your partner,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there's a patient process with them,
That's right.
right? How many people level up, James, would you say? And they've been leading, meaning they're using examples um, from the program. Sorry, they're just
Using the tools.
they're using the tools. Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
And but what they haven't done is they haven't gone the extra mile. One
Mhm.
person we talked to recently was about, we call it bids, right?
Yeah.
Creating opportunities is what I call it. Catherine calls it bids, but I say creating opportunities to connect, to breed red, the love, the
Mhm.
connection. Okay. And
Right.
then essentially invite them in. Hey, babe, do you wanna? Okay. Hey, this is what we're up to. Join. Most people don't actually. So sit there, you rise up,
Mhm.
but you still pull back and you hide, right?
That's right. And patience in this sense would be, okay, you know what? I how do we put it? Deserving in some sense means earned through effort versus entitled. I think we went there in that sense. We talked about, some people think, well, I want what I want. I need this. I deserve this. But sometimes what it is really entitlement. In other words, that they think that they deserve it because they need a cookie for being clean, or they
Correct.
need a cookie for not yelling, or they need a cookie. It's like I made the joke, hey, I bought the book. I'm reading a book. Why don't you love me anymore? Because you're still an asshole. I mean, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
you can't just buy a book and decide that you're changed. But so deserving is that you've earned through the effort. You've put in the work, you've put in the commitment, you've aligned with the reality of who you are. So you've trained hard, you developed the skills, and you've created the conditions and the opportunity for another person to step in and follow you into the place that you've led yourself as an invitation. Entitlement, though, if you're impatient because you feel like you deserve it in this way, it's more entitlement, and that's assumed that it's a right, but you haven't earned it. It's like if I just say, "Hey, Cass, I need you to give me $10,000." What for? But I
Yeah.
deserve it. Because I mean, damn, I just deserve it. You can't say, "Well, here's 5,000 hours here or reimbursement here." You have to earn what you get, and you have to earn what you deserve. So if you've done the work, then it's time for impatience to step into the program and into that process, so that you're not just getting a promotion and promoting yourself because you are like full of visions of grandeur, but you're you're literally the person that you're saying that you are. And you're showing that not just to yourself, but to the people around you, so that when you do give an ask, when you do say, okay, the patience now is over, this is the boundary part of patience. Now I
Hmm.
have some impatience. Or you've discovered that you yourself have become a little bit complacent because life is so good, you don't even realize that you're missing out on something that you deserve. So
Right.
sometimes you have to say, okay, if this is who I am, do I not deserve X? And then you
That's
can
right.
say, now how patient am I going to be in this process of impatience? So they're working side by side.
So that is a process, guys. The moral marriage method is inspire, lead. So inspire is when you're learning, lead is when you're implementing. Okay.
Yep.
Then ask. Okay. So that's what he's talking about here. You
Yep.
start to get impatient and you ask, right? You bring them. And we want you to be impatient. We want you to be a little more not forceful, that's a wrong word, but like a little more
Intentional.
edgy. I want you to make more opportunities, a little more exciting, because you are, what he's describing is, you have risen up and you are believing it. The people around you are feeling it. You're feeling it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the validation you seek from people for justification of why your partner sucks or why you deserve more. I mean, it's just positive energy. Because remember, we're not breeding contempt or resentment here.
That's
Okay.
right.
That's the failure that you start to feel, that you start to push because you feel discouraged. Okay.
That's right.
Then at that point, you then can motivate with a boundary. Okay. Now we're very careful in our program. We do not teach this in our courses. We teach this over coaching calls.
Over
So
coaching.
do not bastardize this, but I'll give you a suggestion of one example. Okay. So let's say you're, by the way, motivated with a boundary. So we're not going right to divorce people. Okay. A lot of people are jumping right to the boundaries with divorce. If you do this, then that's not how it works in our system, because boundaries don't work if you're not respected, guys.
Right.
Okay. That's just the dumbest thing that therapists and other people have been telling you to do for years. Okay. So you've inspired, you're learning, you've led because you know the skills. Now you've been asking. Let's say it's something like this, like you're tired of not feeling like a priority. One of the things that make you feel that way is, say, when you do family night and I'm going to use this example from our program all the time, but a man is on his phone doing business. Okay.
Mhm.
It's just one. So this is one of the many things that are making you feel like maybe I should end it all. Okay.
Right.
It's because there's so many things that make you feel like you don't matter. You've tried to talk to them. You've tried to, and I won't go on. You get it. Well, you might start with an ask of a bunch of times of, hey, baby, I need you when we're doing the family movie night to put the phone down, at least
Right.
for that 2 hours. And that's it. Shut the fuck up.
That's it.
Okay. Then allow your partner who's not working on growing like you. This is especially important for women out there listening. Okay. We sold thousands of books since September. Okay. Like 70% are bought by women, maybe 75%. Okay. That's how important it is for you to understand men suck at asking for help. Okay. It's a fucking fact. Okay. So don't get mad at your partner, male or female. Don't get mad at your partner when they're not growing with you and just putting the phone away.
Yeah.
Remind them every Friday night at family movie night. And eventually the boundary again doesn't go to fuck. This is everything you do wrong. I want a divorce.
Yeah.
You're continuing to grow. So the next step would be, all right, if there's a consequence now, motivate with a boundary. If you don't put your phone down while we're doing family movie night, I'm going to take the kids to McDonald's Playland. Okay. When he doesn't put the phone down, you pick up the kids and you go to McDonald's Playground. When he starts to come after you, if he does, you go without him. He's missed out. You don't enable the bad behavior.
Right.
He gets to have the consequence. That's the reason, another reason why boundaries don't work, why we teach them the reset. Boundaries don't work because you just enable them.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the phone down, honey. Let's all go. Or, okay, let's watch the movie. No. You don't follow through, they don't learn.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's like the parent who counts.
What's that?
Like the parent who counts. I told you 3 times. 1. I mean, this is the 6th time you've said it. The kid doesn't believe you're going to do anything.
That's right. That's right. And your spouse doesn't believe you either. 2 reasons. 1, you jump right to the worst boundary ever. Okay. We're trying to correct many behaviors that all are like the symptoms. Okay.
Right.
It's not that he doesn't care. It's that he's working because he thinks, well, we're not getting through to him about how important. See, most men in this scenario, most men don't realize they need a mountain for a foundation while they're building that business. We talked about this last week. Most people don't realize you shouldn't be focused on just financial, just relationship, just health. You should always be doing all 3 because otherwise you're going to miss out and lag on the rest. Now you're 40 pounds heavier over here because we didn't care over there. Right. Okay. So now, again, do not just go rushing out and throwing boundaries. Right. People do that because they're too impatient with their partner too fast.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Well, there's 2 things we talked about when it comes to the impatience: when it's deserving, when it's justified, and when it becomes entitlement. And I've already said the first thing. It's deserving when you've put in the work and you develop the skills, the resilience. You've been contributing. And impatience is a sign that you recognize it's time for the next step. So, you've demonstrated value. You've given a contribution in that context. So your actions have proven impact. You don't tell everybody, look at me, look at my changes have happened. Then impatience is not entitlement. It's awareness that things are becoming stagnant. On the other hand, it can become entitlement when you have this faulty mindset that you're expecting the results without the work. Or you just feel like, and you can give a bunch of examples of this, Cass, but I mean, we have a lot of men who just think that because they're in the program, that their wives ought to give them a second chance, even though they've had a girlfriend for 6 months, and they're just showing up now 3 days in or 6 months in. I haven't cheated. I had a guy tell me that I haven't cheated in a year. I'm like, well, good. I got a set of lovebirds out in my yard that mate for life. If one of them dies, they never mate again. I said, so you're as good as a lovebird. I mean, a red bird. Aren't you special? You want a cookie?
I think it's even worse. It's even worse than that because catch what he just said, guys. Okay. You just recently changed behavior. Like, let's just call that yesterday. And now you get impatient. Okay. But there's another sense of entitlement that people get impatient for too. How about in this case, again, we're speaking from the men's perspective because we work with men. Catherine works with women, but there's the other guy too. Like, how many times you get on a call with a guy and he's like, yeah, man, I mean, like, I've never cheated. And he's like, she should be grateful. You know what I mean? Like, that's like when I was such in your face to Catherine. Well, I fucking stopped yelling and you said you'd love me. You said you'd like me. I'm not yelling anymore, but does this look any fucking better?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You get in an argument, Cass. You know what? I didn't murder you. I don't know why you're mad that I punched you in the face. I didn't shoot you.
So that's my point. People you get impatient for fucking normal. Baseline normal doesn't cut it, guys. If you
It
want to be
doesn't.
extraordinary
It doesn't.
in your marriage, in your bank account, in your health, then you
Yeah.
can't be fucking average. I'm going to say that again. If you want to be extraordinary, you can't do average and normal.
Yeah.
You know, when people look at our marriage and they're like, how the fuck did they overcome all the abuse, all me being a narcissist, overcoming it, managing it, you know, all of the bullshit and trauma and the depths of hell, as we put it. It's because we didn't do what everybody else in the world is doing. We created our own systems. We took the best of what worked and built better systems on top and stacked them.
Mhm.
And we partnered with somebody, James here, so we could do more, so we could keep moving forward. There's a reason we keep investing and keep creating, and then we keep giving.
Right.
Why? Because you can't create extraordinary from fucking normal.
That's right.
Just give up. Just tell yourself you don't want to.
That
Catherine's my favorite lines Catherine says. Just tell yourself you don't want to.
Yeah, just be honest. Just be honest.
Yeah,
I'm not going to. I don't want to, and that leads into to something that really I don't think we touched on this earlier, but feeling frustrated that you're not at the top, that you don't have the thing. That's entitlement. That's entitlement. Well, why aren't I? You know, I'll never get fit. You know, you did 6 weeks in the gym and then you quit, went back to Dunkin' Donuts. You know, and you just don't want to do the work. You don't do the grind. I'm not on top of my game. It'll never happen for me. Or you mistake desire for deserving this. It's okay to want something really badly, but just because you want it, and even if it is something that's actually good that you should have in life, impatience becomes destructive when it leads to resentment, because resentment will stifle your action. So you have to really, really focus on that. And what I mean, you talk about when in gym and when you lost your gym because of COVID, because the government shut everything down, you know, you lost $1 million gym. You assume the world owes you, the government owes you, your spouse owes you, blah, blah, blah. You know what? And you know what? Sometimes it's even as simple, Cass, as you owe me patience. You owe me understanding. You don't respect, you owe me respect. Dude, if you're stepping out and you're treating your spouse like shit, they don't owe you squat. And so if they're still there walking with you, you need to recognize that. Life doesn't distribute rewards based on feelings. If impatience leads to blaming other people, it's a sign of entitlement. It really is.
I'm just letting you know, guys, there's a lot of people talking here about, you know, getting through to their husbands. And I'll tell you something right now. Just send me a DM. I'll walk you through a plan, but it's pretty straightforward. If your husband is not on board, okay, then the best plan that we've seen now with thousands of women DMing the same problem. I mean, different stories, but same problem. Okay.
Same problem.
Simply read my book in front of them. The cover is designed to smack him in the face. Disrupting Divorce, The New Man, Saving Struggling, Sexless, Toxic Marriages. It's supposed to inspire him when you show him that you care. Now, here's the cool thing. Never could have understood or prepared for the amount of women thanking me because they understand their husband now. It's in James's view there. Okay. Why is that cool? Because knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing is part 2 of that plan would be to read Catherine's book. Here's why. I mentioned it earlier. When Catherine started to stand in her own strength and love me the way that a man I needed to be loved, I learned what love was. I did not know as a narcissist. Okay. That was the catalyst for my supercharged growth. Now why I can teach everything that I teach and how I met my partner, even James here. Okay. So that's the step 2. You take the empathy or compassion that you hopefully learned from understanding your husband. You implement what you learned from Catherine. And the last step is listen to our podcast, Moral Marriage, around him. And I'm smacking him across the face in that podcast. The graph is like this. Like we can't even, we're the fastest growing podcast in marriage to date. Is on registering and dating, masculinity, and women. Catherine's going to hold you accountable to the stuff that she teaches too. Okay. And we often hold both of you together accountable. Okay. But that's a 3-part plan that's worked incredibly well for husbands to click and go, okay, this guy might be onto something. Because deep down, your husband wants to be loved, he wants to be respected, and he wants to have sex. Okay. But he wants all of the other stuff that you want too. He doesn't know how. Okay. So, excuse me, that plan has worked solidly for thousands of women. We get DMs all the time. Okay. And if you want more, please DM me. I handle my DMs personally. All right. I digress. We're getting close to the end here. So my twin girls' 6th birthday today.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah. Growing up.
Good stuff.
I want to give my final thoughts, and then James, I want you to give your final thoughts.
Okay.
Okay. So again, last week, so you don't have to necessarily go look for the live, but patience. You've got to be more patient with yourself and your failures, and therefore your partner. If you're growing, give patience. Your partner needs to grow. Okay. 2, you need to get impatient with yourself. So I gave an example last week on women who are financially abused, and there's a full episode of the podcast where we talk about finances, very recent, where I even dive into this. One of the 4 points was this one. There's no excuse to be financially abused. Not in this day and age when you can, once the kids are asleep, you can go ahead and start doing something instead of watching Netflix or scroll on social media. You can learn to do not let your husband fucking squash you ever.
Right.
And men, if you're doing that, fuck off. Okay.
There you go.
2, no matter what you want in life, guys, you don't need to be watching Netflix or scroll on social media if you want more with yourself. So get impatient with yourself to go learn. Just be patient as you're learning.
That's right.
Hopefully that makes sense. Okay.
Right.
Now, then as you get discouraged because you don't like who you are and you want to be impatient with your partner, go back to step 1, be patient with them because you're probably nowhere near where you need to be. Okay. The example I used earlier, in case you're just joining us, was a woman was getting towered over by her husband. And I heard Catherine on the call with her, and she said, wait a minute, let me stop you there. Sounds like you agreed with everything he said and you understood, but you didn't like the delivery. She said, yes. Catherine said, then connect with him, understand him, and then we can address the behavior after. See, we sometimes get self-righteous because we feel discouraged because we feel like it's not working for us, and then you still don't get what you want. If you're the one on board, you're the one who's got the foot in, you're the one who leads. That's it. Okay? We'll get you to a point where you start climbing at the same time. Okay? Cool. James, last thoughts?
All right, man. Just 3 things. First, something that we didn't say that we need to say because of the audience that we're talking to right now is that impatience is a compass. It's not a crutch. Okay. At the same time, don't ever have patience with the mindset of someone not taking responsibility for their actions. When they turn it around, don't ever say, well, don't ever have patience for that.
No.
That's just some area of life that you should never concede. It is not a virtue to let someone blame you and blame the world and blame everybody else. Have impatience with that, and especially with yourself. So when you're grounded in effort and growth, impatience is a signal, okay? It's a signal that you're ready to move. When grounded in entitlement, it's an excuse for frustration. And so we've got to learn to distinguish the two. The second thing is you do not deserve what you have not earned. If the world doesn't reward potential, the world doesn't reward ideas or desire or dreams. It rewards proof. It rewards a product. It rewards the outcome. The show don't tell. So if you want something, you got to ensure your actions are producing, not just your expectations. Your actions justify it, not your desires. And then urgency without entitlement. We didn't talk a whole lot about urgency because I don't live with urgency, but urgency is part of impatience when it works together. Urgency without entitlement is the path to mastery. If you can say, oh, wow, I got to move, I got to go, I need to demand more of myself and of others around me, but you never assume that you're owed it, it's the fastest way forward. And it'll make you into a relentless, joyful, absolutely amplifying and impactful human being. The world around you will chase you down. And you're like, get away. You have to make some space because of the impact you have in the world. Those are my 3 things.
I love that. All right, guys, you have a really great day, and we'll see you next week, same time. All right. Bye.
Bye.